Good morning. It's a good morning. I came back last night in time to root on the Ravens, to have a 2-point conversion to tie up the game, to win in overtime at the same time as the San Francisco Giants won the second of 3 games for the in terms of baseball. More to come on that. It's always a unifying thing, sports, where we all root for the home team. In my case, it's San Francisco and Baltimore as well. So that's now that we've dispensed with the truly important in most people's lives, I want to just report on a very important visit that I had the end of last week and over the holiday weekend. As you may some of know, climate issue was my flagship issue when I was speaker the first time, when President Bush was president, and we passed the biggest energy bill in the history of our country, some of which was used as authority by President Obama when he was president for executive orders regarding climate and energy. We weren't able to pass the legislation for climate, needing 60 votes in the Senate, but it has always been of the highest priority. And so this weekend, I had the end of last week and this weekend, had the privilege of representing the Congress of the United States at the G20 meeting, which largely, well, it's always about security, economy, and governance, specifically focused on COVID and climate in this case. And then in addition to being part of that opening, to also participate in the opening ceremonies of the pre-COP26 session of the legislators gathered there. It was particularly exciting because while we were there, the announcement of the Nobel Prize winners for physics was named, and one of them was an Italian who then participated in the opening ceremonies as well, because he received it. I won't try to describe it to you. Never try to describe why somebody gets a Nobel Prize in physics, but it relates to climate and his early understanding of how things are interconnected. George Parisi is his name, and it was such an honor to be on an opening ceremony with him, showing us a path for what we must do in addition to what we know from our experience, but knowing it from the standpoint of physics. It was interesting because every country is ready. We're all sort of measuring each other's commitment to meeting our emissions goals, and the president's is a strong one. Basically, what we said at this meeting is that America is back. That's exactly the message of President Biden, back in terms of multilateralism, back in terms of the Transatlantic Charter, which was an important part of our discussions, as well as back in terms of leading the way, again, on the climate crisis. His is not only to meet the Paris goals, but to beat them, and we would have over a 50% goal by 2030, 100% by 2050. Part of the commitment, in addition to meeting our own goals, is to make sure we help developing countries with the technology and resources to meet theirs. They are not responsible for many of the emissions, but they pay a big price in terms of rising sea levels, encroachment of deserts, melting of glaciers, drying up of rivers, and the rest that have an impact on their lives. It's a very big issue. The World Health Organization has just issued something within the last 24 hours, I believe. I saw it when I got off the plane, that they think that the climate issue is the biggest health challenge that we have. And it is a health issue. Clean air, clean water for our children. It's a jobs issue. Good green jobs for many more people to take advantage.
The House of Representatives has just approved a debt limit increase and sent President Biden a new bill. the House of Representatives approved legislation to raise the U.S. debt limit. This is the final legislative hurdle to avoiding a first ever national default that was otherwise expected to occur next week. The bill passed by the Senate last week now travels to President Biden's desk for his signature and enactment. Plus, legislation which cleared the House with a party line vote of 219 to 206 is the result of an agreement between the Congressional Democrats and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. The current national debt, everybody, is around $28.4 trillion and would be permitted to rise to about $28.8 trillion. So while the president is widely expected to sign the bill, failure to do so could result in economic calamity by October 18th. Now, Nancy Pelosi said during a press conference on Tuesday that debt ceiling suspensions or extensions do not authorize new government spending, but allow the Treasury Department to pay for appropriations that Congress has already approved. The debt limit extension is expected to allow the government to recover its expenses at least through December 3rd. Now, everybody, the debt limit agreement between McConnell and Chuck Schumer came as a breakthrough after weeks of negotiations. Republicans want Democrats to pass a longer-lasting borrowing limit to increase through budget reconciliation, and reconciliation would allow Democrats to pass a debt limit hike with a simple majority vote and circumvent a GOP filibuster. The GOP argues that the chore of extending the limit should rest with Democrats, since the Biden administration is attempting to use the same process to pass trillions of dollars in climate and anti-poverty spending. If McConnell stands by his threat to withhold Republican support, Democrats will be left with few options other than reconciliation because the Senate is split 50-50. Most bills in the Senate require at least 60 votes thanks to the threat of a filibuster. Republicans believe the short-term ceiling deal will blind Democrats to a debt ceiling increase in December. McConnell claimed in extending his compromise to Democrats last week. By December, Biden, Schumer, and Nancy Pelosi will be unable to claim that they lacked enough time to manage both debt limit and their policy agenda. Now, the deadline for Californians, everybody, is to submit their 2020 tax return and be considered for a Golden State stimulus check that is quickly approaching. This Friday marks the last day that most Californians can turn in their taxes and still be eligible for a payment of up to $1,100. That's because the payments are primarily based off of last year's taxes, with one of the main qualifications being that the resident reported earnings between $1 and $75,000 last year. October 15th is also the IRS's deadline for people who previously asked for an extension on their 2020 tax returns. October 15th is also the IRS's deadline for people who previously asked for an extension on their 2020 tax returns. Now, the Franchise Tax Board notes that Californians who apply for an ITIN number by October 15th will have an additional 4 months to file their state income taxes and still possibly be eligible for a Golden State stimulus payment. Under the second Golden State stimulus program, eligible Californians will receive a payment of $600 and an extra $500 if they claimed at least one dependent on their 2020 taxes. That's all the news in this video, folks. If you enjoyed, be sure to subscribe to my channel.